My name is Bea and today I am doing my October wrap-up and November TBR. So I am actually really disappointed in my wrap-up this month, and that is because I only read 4 books. But I feel like that's because I didn't give myself enough books to read. Like I know I've said in previous wrap-ups that having too many books that I know I want to read kind of puts me in a weird headspace, but I feel like not giving myself enough books also puts me in a weird headspace. So I only read 4 books this month, but I read some good books, so let's get talking about them. So the first book that I did manage to read in the month of October is Even the Darkest Stars by Heather Fawcett. This is one of the books that I said I was going to read, so I'm really happy I got to read this, especially as it was in the Fairy Loot box that I got in September, so really excited that I got to read this. I did not know when I received this book that it was the first book in what could possibly be a series. It is #1, #1 on Goodreads, so there will be multiple books in this series. So there is currently a second one in the works and it is called All the Wandering Light, and that sounds really cool. I definitely think that this book could carry on to be just a duology. I definitely think that this could be ended in the next book, so I'm really excited to get that when it comes out. In this book there is a very amazing twist within it. It is probably about 3/4 of the way through this book and I could not see it coming. I was completely oblivious, but like in the pages leading up to that twist being revealed, I was twigging, I was realising some things were about to happen, and then when it happened I was like, how could I not see that coming? The twist in this is so amazingly well written that I loved it. It's probably one of my favourite book twists of all time. That's how amazing it was. So yeah, I really loved this book. I will give it a 4 out of 5 stars just because it ended on quite a huge cliffhanger. So I can't deal with cliffhangers, so it is getting a 4 out of 5 stars. So loved this book. So the last 3 books that I read in the month of October was the Grisha trilogy. So I am going to be going through these books individually, just talking about each one. But overall I absolutely loved this trilogy. It's probably one of my favourite ones that I've ever read. I am definitely going to be reading the rest of the books in the Grishaverse very soon, so really excited about these. So yeah, I'm going to talk about these individually now. So the first book in this trilogy is obviously Shadow and Bone, and this is by Leah Bardugo. This is the first in the Grisha trilogy, as I just mentioned, and I loved this book, obviously. It is amazing, I loved it. The world building within this book is so vast and so immense that it can be a bit confusing, especially with all of the different Grishas, that you've got different like Grishas, and there's quite a few names to remember within that, so they all have different powers. So it is quite hard to remember all of their names, and it is quite hard to remember all of the places because there are a lot of places within this book and within this trilogy also. So it can be a bit daunting going into this book, seeing all of those stuff, but you do get the hang of it. It does get easier towards the end of this book. So within this book we obviously follow Alina, and she is an amazing heroine. She's just an amazing character overall. But my favourite part about this book was definitely Alina's connection with the Darkling, who is also our other main character. And I really loved their connection. The only bad thing I want to say about this book is that I really hate the way that they end their connection, and I really don't like the fact that it doesn't continue throughout the rest of the trilogy. I was really shipping them and I really loved them together, but it's just clearly not meant to be. So even though it doesn't continue on into the rest of the series, the connection is within this book, so I am going to give this book a full 5 out of 5 stars just because it was an amazing beginning to an amazing trilogy and it just needs that love. So the second book in this trilogy is Siege and Storm, and again this is in the Grisha trilogy. So within this book I really felt that the storyline was really weak. There's a lot of travelling going on in this book, and there are a lot of place names to remember and a lot of place names you kind of have to figure out where they are because they're not all on the map at the front, so it can be really hard trying to figure out where they are. And basically throughout the first 2/3 of this book they're just travelling and they're hopping from one place to another place to another place to another place, and it's really confusing, especially the timeline between each place, because you'd think that on a map like this that has loads of place names and with a sea like this, that each place would be a couple of days travel in between, but they're going between different places during like a day. And to be honest, I really don't understand the distance between each place because there is no kind of unit of measurement within this map, so it kind of got really confusing about where they were. But I did really love the introduction of some of the characters within this book. There are some really great characters that are introduced and ones that you definitely have to fall in love with and really have to enjoy within this book. The ending is definitely something to behold with this book. The ending is probably my favourite part of this book, to be honest. Yeah, the ending was amazing. I loved it. You definitely have to read the ending of this book. Like, even if you only read the first and second books, then you just have to read the ending because I loved it, so you should too. So yeah, because I didn't really like 2/3 of this book, I'm going to be giving it 3 out of 5 stars, and it's not because Leah Bardugo is a shit writer, because obviously she is amazing. She's one of the top writers currently, but I think the storyline could have gone completely differently. That's all I'm saying. So the last book in this series is obviously Ruin and Rising, and I just want to take a minute to say a prayer for my copy of Ruin and Rising because it did get water damaged and it is all bobbly and wrinkly and awful. So say a prayer for Ruin and Rising for me because she's kind of, look, it's sad, guys. It's so sad. But yeah, this is the last book in the Grisha trilogy by Leah Bardugo, so it is a great ending to a great trilogy. I've got a whole page of notes on this book, so bear with me. So again, for a lot of this book there is a lot of travelling, and within this book there are quite a few names of places that aren't on the map, and it's basically really hard to figure out where they're going, and then you kind of have to do a bit of guesswork about where they are, and then a name that's actually on here comes up within the storyline and you're like, across the page you're in a completely different area than you thought you were. And that is the biggest thing with this book. If you're gonna have a map within a book, have all of the names of the places that they've gone on the map so that we can figure out where they've been. That is the one thing that gets me so hard, is not being able to figure out where they are, because at one point they're flying and I thought they were somewhere down here, but turns up they were somewhere up here, and then they were all of a sudden over here where there was a name that is in here, and I was like, well, why have they gone all the way down here to go back up there to go down here? I got really, really confused, but that is about the only thing that got me with this book, was the map and the place names, and I'm not surprised if that happened to other people as well. So I also really loved the ending of this book. There's loads of symbolism within the end of this book, because we started this series with Alina being something different than what she was supposed to be, and then at the end of this series we kind of see her go back into that thing that she was originally, and I really loved that kind of transition of starting a series somewhere and ending it in the same place. I really, really liked that symbolism within this book. So without spoiling anything, I'm gonna try and also say something that I loved. So if you have read this book then I'm pretty sure you know what I'm going to talk about. So within this book there are something called amplifiers, and at the end of this book Alina has an amplifier and she uses it, but it doesn't work in the way that it's supposed to, and I really loved that she kind of got a shock about that. I really loved the kind of different way her amplifier worked to the way it's supposed to. I really think that added to the storyline about her kind of, it's that transition of her from what she was to what she was supposed to be. I love that transition because of the amplifier. So if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't worry. It's something that you kind of have to figure out from reading this book. So yeah, sorry. I actually surprised myself with really loving the Darklings ending. I didn't think that would happen. I did actually read, there are interviews at the back of this book, so I didn't actually know that was going to happen, but I spoiled myself from reading the interview at the back and figured out what was going to happen at the end. So I was like, okay, I might as well just finish it now. But I actually, even though I spoiled myself, I really loved finding out how that happened, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I really loved the Darklings ending. It was something completely different and something that I don't think has happened to a lot of main characters in a lot of books, so I really enjoyed the difference with that, and his ending definitely added to the storyline as well. But yeah, I really loved the Darklings ending. There is something that I would like to point out about all of the trilogies. They have a chapter at the beginning and the end which is in a different narrative, and I really love that. It gives you another sense of the story, and it kind of adds to our knowledge of the story as it is as well, and it kind of like begins and ends each story with someone else's perspective, and I really love that, because there's no names in those sections. You kind of have to figure out who that different narrative is talking about, and I really love that about this trilogy. So yeah, those are the 4 books that I read within the month of October. I am about to do my TBR, and I am about to boost myself up by about 5 books, so let's go. Okay, so within the month of November, I am planning on reading a whole 9 books. You heard me right, 9 books. I am starting early because I have realised I didn't start reading in October until about the 12th of October. So I started reading really late in that month. So it is currently the 1st of November as I'm filming this. So I am gonna go ahead and start reading as soon as I finish filming this video. So yeah, 9 books. Let's hope I can do it. I've done 8. I've done 8 before. I'm just hoping I can do the 9. Fingers crossed, give me strength. So the first 2 books that I am planning on reading in the month of November are Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and this is a duology based in the Grishaverse, which is the Grisha trilogy that I have just spoken about. So these kind of carry on from the trilogy, but they follow different characters, and I believe Crooked Kingdom has some of the characters from the Grisha trilogy within it. So I wanted to kind of carry on the Grisha trilogy in a different kind of setting, because I didn't want to lose all my knowledge from the Grisha trilogy and then have to kind of re-figure out what's going on within Six of Crows. So these are the first 2 books that I'm going to be reading. As you can see, I have already started Six of Crows this morning. Wish me luck. So next I am going to be reading a quartet of books, a series of books, and that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. And I have mentioned this before in one of my, I think it's my plans for reading that I mentioned this series, and I said that I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue it, and loads of people commented and said yes, read The Raven Cycle. So I have finished buying The Raven Cycle. I finally have all 4 and I am very excited to read them. So this series contains The Raven Boys, The Dream Thieves, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, and The Raven King. So obviously this is there's 4 books in this series, so I'm not quite sure if I'll be able to finish them, but they are quite thin. I have been reading quite large books recently, and I think that might be a reason why I haven't read many, so these are quite thin books, so I'm pretty sure I can get through them quite fast. I have tried to read The Raven Boys before, and I think I got to about page 50 and I couldn't continue it because I wasn't understanding a word of what was happening within this series. But I think I'm in a more fantasy-based headspace, and I feel like I can definitely try at least getting into this series again. If not, then I'm not gonna read 9 books this month, so I'm gonna try. So next on my November TBR is a duology, and that is The Rain duology. So that has The Rain and The Storm by Virginia Burgeon. I have finished this book previously, so this will be a reread for me, so I'm really sure that I can get through it really quickly. And then this is a brand new read, so I am really excited to finish this. I really loved this one, so I'm really hoping it lives up to the first book. And the 9th book that I am planning on reading within the month of November, it is a standalone, and that is Daughter of the Burning City by Amanda Foody. I have heard loads of stuff about this book, and I did talk a little bit about it in a previous video, so that will be tagged up here or up there somewhere. So go and watch that video if you want to find out a bit more about this book. So yeah, this is the 9th book I'll be reading. So those are all of the books that I'm going to be reading in November. Wish me luck. I really hope I can get them all read. And that ends this video. This week has been my October wrap up and November TBR. I really hope you liked it. If you did, then hit that like button and subscribe while you're down there so you don't miss any more of my future videos. Next week I'm going to be doing a surprise. I'll see you later. Bye!